Awesome.
All
Take it
righty.
away, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks, Denise. Hey, guys. Nice to be on your JB call. We just had a nice call today, so I've been on Zoom a lot, so I'm going to keep this pretty short, but hopefully we can give you guys some good information. So I started selling Cutco before really people were doing shows and before really people were doing service calls. When I first started, it was all about just demo. And obviously, when you're brand new, that is the best way to really gain experience is get out and show Cutco. But what you'll find, especially after how many freaking years I mean, Cutco's been around now a long time. A lot of people already own Cutco, and those are some of the best people to go see. And I was pretty lucky and early in my career, as you all know, your sharpener that we all have says the Ed Reed sharpener on it. And I actually field trained with Ed Reed down in where were we? Ventura County, California, back in like 1997. He was such a cool dude. He was going out on service calls and he just had me drive him around. I drove him to these ladies and houses and I would help him up. And he was like not in the greatest health, but he had such a good attitude, and he just really taught me something early on in my career with Cutco, which is that some of the best people to see are the people that already have Cutco. I'm sure you guys all know out there. You've done your appointments. You know that when you see somebody that owns Cutco, they're pumped. They love the product. They're stoked about seeing you because they're excited about what you're showing them. It's not like you're selling Girl Scout cookies or something that no one cares about. Cutco's really cool stuff. So Ed taught me that early, and it's really stuck with me. So my biggest component of my success and my income with Cutco is doing appointments with people mainly to sharpen their knives. And don't get me wrong, way to present it where every single person that I go and sharpen knives for knows that I'm a salesman, that I am a salesman, and that the goal of the appointment is, of course, to provide top-notch service for their Cutco, but also to show them what's new and exciting with Cutco, and they're excited about that. Not some more than others, but they're ready for that. So, my service calls are quick. I'm not someone that likes to linger in people's homes for an hour or 2 hours. Don't get me wrong, there are those appointments where it's like going really well and the people really like to talk, and some are there a lot longer than expected. But my average appointment is 40 minutes, under an hour, sometimes 30 minutes, because I'm quick. I get in there, I have them all coached before I get there. Hey, I want you to take out every Cutco item you own and have it laid out on the counter or on a table and have it all ready for me. And they don't always do that. Sometimes we're digging through drawers, finding a bunch of other Cutco. But you just get right to it. Sharpening is key. I do a lot of sending back. Like I send a lot of people's stuff back. So I have a big box in my car with the sheaths for all the knives and a little receipt that I write up for them. And I like to do that, but mainly just sharpening, because once you get those knives nice and sharp for them, and while you're doing it, it's about, hey, while I take care of all this sharpening, let me show you the book and give them the catalog. And as you're going, I like to just ask questions. Oh, do you guys barbecue? Of course, most people like to barbecue. So I just go, oh, let me show you this knife. Here's the Hardy slicer. Here's the Petite Santoku, not for barbecuing, but just for all the most popular pieces that people absolutely love but often don't have. And if somebody, not Denise wanted to talk about upgrades, and I do a ton of upgrading. I will say though, my upgrades are not necessarily always, they have, because so many situations are different. Some people I see have 2 or 3 knives, some people have 20 knives. But what I consider an upgrade is ultimate block.
I like mini cats, but I don't like big cats.
Ultimate block,
Piper's are cool.
Additional steak knives, and then the additional pieces that they like. And often those are the ones, the cheese knife, Hardy slicer, the stuff that everyone loves. So upgrading people is really just an helping them expand their Cutco set. You know, getting them into a bigger block is the key. I stress this over and over again with customers, and I'm very direct. I go, if they're like, "Oh, the ultimate block's too big," I will share that the signature block is available, but I try really hard to steer people away from buying the signature block for an upgrade because it only has 3 additional slots more than the homemaker block, and there's a lot of wasted real estate on the wood there. I think that the ultimate block is just for the, I think it's 90 something dollars more. It's just a much better value, and it's almost the exact same size. I mean, it's literally less than an inch wider than the signature block. So I really recommend just giving giving people the best, their best. And I one thing I like to say to people is I go, hey, it's okay if there's empty slots. That's part of my master plan to, help you fill in those holes over time. They don't have to have that doesn't have to happen all today, because a full upgrade can cost, a couple grand if they're doing it all at once. And a lot of people aren't ready to drop that much. But if you can get it to like 800, 1200, and they can break that up over 5 payments, a lot of times that's more comfortable for people. And they like that you want to, keep the relationship going, because I'm going to come back and sharpen for you. I'm going to, reach out to you in our specials throughout the year and let you know when we're doing sales and all that good stuff. Um, but yeah, for new guys starting out, I really want to stress the importance of service calls, just getting in front of people. I do this. I talked to a few reps that have come and field trained, and I was just like drilling it into them. Like, you guys, the best thing you can do for yourself right now, as far as making a big pay, a better paycheck, and also putting yourself in a position where you will get to work more shows later, is just doing appointments. And that's the best way to do those, are service calls. So get on the service call. And any questions? What do you guys think?
Adam, could you share like some specific verbiage you use when you're talking about upgrades with the customer?
Yeah.
Like what do you say to like pique their interest in the upgrade, to, make them even consider it?
Well, the one thing I mentioned already, which is about, I really try to, I've stressed to customers, the worst possible way to store knives is loose in a drawer, just because it's bad for the knives. The edges are very delicate. It bangs up the edges, and it's also very dangerous for people going in and out of the drawers. If the knives are really sharp, it's just so much better for the knife and for everybody to have them in a block. So that's one of the first things, is just getting people on board and having all their knives in a block. And another big thing I stress with that is, when you think about it, I tell this to customers all the time. I go, when you think about it, you use your knives more than virtually anything else in your whole kitchen. It makes sense to store them where they're very accessible and they're sitting on your counter. So you're going to run into people. There are those people out there that are just like, nope, I don't want them on the counter. But most people, I've noticed this, most people will, if you present it to them in the right way, they will try it. And I really stress that with those people that are highly against blocks and want them in the drawer. I go, hey, there's a 30-day unconditional money back guarantee. If you do get the block and you put it on the counter and you don't fall in love with it, reach out to me. I'll help you get that exchanged or returned. And it's virtually never happens. I tell people on that all the time, where they're like dead set against a block and they end up buying the ultimate block, and they always keep it. And then I go sharpen them up a year later. They're like, oh, you were right. This block is great. So I think a big thing is just getting them on board with having them in the block, and
Mhm.
then filling those holes in.
Awesome. And then a key thing you mentioned, I loved how you said the accessibility of the knives, right? Like, a lot of people don't think about how if they have a smaller block on the counter, and then if they're adding more Cutco and that stuff ends up in the drawer because there's no room in their homemaker block or whatever, oftentimes out of sight, out of mind, right? The stuff in the drawer ends up getting used less than the stuff that's in the block. And so having everything accessible on the counter, they're more likely to use it. And they're not thinking about like, oh, what do I have in the drawer, right? They're just grabbing what's accessible.
And 100%, like I think a big part of getting people on board with upgrading is showing them and making them really feel comfortable that your goal is not to try to just sell them a million things, but it's to help them have their best possible experience with Cutco. And by having all the knives in the block and the right tools for the right job, they're going to get the most out of their knives and their experience owning Cutco. So make sure to keep the customers, the customers' needs above your own, and be there, as a for service versus just sales. So people will appreciate that, and they'll respond by wanting to buy more stuff.
Definitely. So I want to open it up for anybody that has questions for Adam about either service calls or upgrades.
So Adam, what other nuggets can you share with your time with Ed Reed? Like, what's like the best lessons you've learned? Because you could fit a whole book from what I've heard from other people about the guy, and I feel like we don't know enough, in our training or even in our time here, 10+ years.
Yeah, so I went down in my first summer with Cutco. I moved from up here down to Oxnard, where he had an office, and I actually branched in his office because he was going through some serious health complications with type 1 diabetes, and he was just like having a really hard summer. And by the way, I was 19 years old at the time, and you guys, I was not. I'm guessing a lot of you guys are around that age range. Like, I didn't know how to deal with somebody that was going through major life health complications. I probably still don't necessarily, but during that summer, Ed had, and this is kind of unnerving to hear, but he had both of his legs amputated, both of his middle fingers, and he went blind. And I'm a 19-year-old kid. I was just kind of like freaked out. And I was like, he was within a week or two after these operations, he's like calling me, and I'm like, Ed, how you doing, man? I'm so sorry to hear about, sorry to hear about your legs. And my God, this guy's attitude, he said, Adam, my doctor put my prosthetic 2 degrees out. It's taken 3 strokes off my golf swing. I kid you not, guys. This guy's attitude going through like the most gruesome health stuff was A+. And it made me just really think at that time, and it stuck with me, that like we have very little to complain about. Like, we have such a good opportunity. Cutco's amazing stuff. Life is really good. So if Ed Reed going through those kind of horrendous life things could keep a good attitude, we should just keep our attitudes good. So I think the biggest nugget I got from Ed was just being grateful and appreciating the moment, and learning how to do a service call, because that sharpener is named after him for a reason. He pioneered service calls. There was no one doing that before Ed in like the whatever 80s and 90s, and I met him in like 96 when I was, or 97. I was 19, and I was just like this young kid, and he was going through all this stuff, but he really taught me a lot. So here I am 30 years later.
Awesome. So Taylor has a question in the chat. It says that she has a lot of customers that prefer to have their knives in the drawer with the tray. How would you go about doing an upgrade if they want to upgrade with the tray, since the cleaver and certain knives won't fit in the block?
It's a good question. I've been known to just, if people don't want a block, and it really does happen, so don't stress. I'm inclined to tell them honestly, like, there are better, get them in the click-on sheaths for the cleaver. It already comes with one. All the bigger knives, for the most part, with exception of the butcher knife, have the click-on sheath. But what I'll tell people is, I honestly dislike these trays. They're plastic. They take up way too much space in the drawer for holding the 5 knives. I'm like, you're better off, if you're 100% going to keep them in the drawer, get them in click and sheaths, or go to Williams Sonoma. They have really nice wooden knife things that'll fit a drawer and hold way more stuff. So yeah, you're gonna have people that don't want to block on their counter. They're like, I run into people with, Adam, I don't want to block on the counter. What if we have a burglar? I'm like, you have way more to worry about if you got an intruder in your house than having some knives on the counter. But I get it. So don't worry. Just keep them in the drawer, but make sure the edges are protected. That would be my best advice for that.
Yeah, like whenever I like go to people's houses, they're kind of very hesitant about a block because like with people who already own Cutco, they're just like I don't want anything on my counter space, like I don't want it to be cluttered. And like I noticed certain knives won't fit in, yeah, like a tray, or they just don't have a sheath you can buy it with. Like I know the boning knife, I was trying to get a sheath with that, and that one wouldn't fit. So you're saying kind of just make sure. Just
Just, I would just say, like, don't stress too hard about each individual customer and each individual appointment. Most people, like like I said earlier, a million times I've talked to people that are saying exactly what you're saying. Your customer's saying, nothing on the counter. We don't want to block. We don't want to block. I don't like, I don't overdo it, but I'm like, hey, you guys, I've talked to so many people that initially don't want to block, but then when I stress that, one, when you think about it, you use your knives more than anything in the whole kitchen. It makes sense to store them where they're accessible, and it's much better for the knives. They're going to stay sharp a lot longer. They're going to look nicer. They're not going to get nicked and chipped by banging around in the drawer. And if you pitch them on that and they're still just like, nope, I don't want them. And believe me, I've run into 1,000 of these women over the years that are like, doesn't matter what you say. They don't care. They just want the knives in the drawer. No problem, Mrs. Jones. We can get those all in sheaths. And the ones that don't, we can get a little storage tray for you. You just work with the customer and address their needs, and you try to encourage them to do it in the blog. But if they're not going to go for it, no big deal. We'll figure out a better way for them. That's absolutely easy to fix, as long as they're down to see see the potential and want to work with you. Like they will find a way, and often it will be in a block if they actually look closely at it and go, all right, we'll try it out. And then they do, and they're like, oh, this is way better. So,
All right. Anybody else have questions?
this is crazy, Denise. There's a whole lot of people on this call. We got a lot of future Cutco salesmen coming up.
Hey, I wasn't joking when I told you that what was it? 17 new people completed training on Saturday.
That's cool. Good stuff, guys. Well, welcome to the Cutco team. I encourage you guys to really take advantage of the field training options. That's really important. That was huge for me when I was new, is just getting out on appointments with other people. And I've been known to, do a lot of field trainings. We did a few just recently at Alameda, and I'm always happy to encourage people and show people the way.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Adam. We really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your night.
No, I'm not going on Zoom for another 6 months.